All right, here we go. Freeway Ricky Ross. Welcome back to VladTV.
You already know, man.
It's been a few months. I think September was the last time that you came through here.
We do this so often. It feels
yeah.
like, like I'm part of the team.
You are.
And people on the street think I'm part of the team too. So
you know you're a regular guest.
Yeah. I figured you had something you needed to talk about.
Hey, man, listen.
You know I'm a therapist too, right? So
yeah, so am I. People open up to me from what I hear. People tell me everything. Yeah. They don't know how I do it.
Yeah, you good.
Well, let's go ahead and get into it. First of all, someone who you know very well, Harry O, was pardoned by Donald Trump recently.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. You and Harry go back. You guys were locked up together, right?
Locked up together.
And on the street together.
Stayed in the same apartment complex on Beverly Glen in Pico. And me and his brother Dave was closer than me and Harry O was.
Okay.
Dave got killed on a boat.
On a boat?
Yeah, he had a boating accident.
Oh, okay. Wow, you don't hear that very often.
No. We were in jail when it happened. But yeah, that's what the rumor was, that he had a boating accident.
Okay. And I think we've talked about this before, but refresh my memory. When you guys were on the street together, were you doing business together or not so much?
Me and Harry didn't do business. He did business around me through other people. But me and him never did direct business.
Okay. Was there a reason?
No.
Just he had his thing, you had your thing, and
yeah, we was cool,
Yeah.
And like I said, me and his brother was way cool, And his brother was big too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he may have been bigger than Harry.
Huh, interesting. And were they
Harry,
business
partners? Harry might
disagree on that.
He might disagree on that, but I guess they probably had times, where one was doing better than the other one,
Yeah.
But Dave was more calm, Harry was, me and Harry, we had a thing. We was in the cell together where we say he had a double personality. That was Mike, and then there was Harry O. So Harry O was a little more hot-headed than Dave was. So I felt comfortable dealing with Dave.
Okay, so you're doing business with Dave?
His brother, yeah.
Okay, all right, got it. And Harry was known as a very flashy guy as well.
Both of them could have been,
Yeah, I mean, a lot more flashy than you.
Yeah. Last time I saw Dave had about, I don't know, $800,000-$900,000 worth of cars in the garage. He had the Testarossa, the Big Benz. His bucket was a Acura Legend when they had just came out.
Mm-hmm.
So Porsche, he had the Porsche too. So he was, he showed his wealth a little bit.
I mean, how does someone during that era who doesn't have a real job hide all that wealth and all that flashiness? Because you did it by just looking very poor, I guess, for lack of a better word. But for the guys with $1 million in cars and jewelry and huge mansions, like, how are you hiding all this?
Well, the system wasn't as sophisticated as it is now. I don't think. We used to could go into a bank and get a $10,000 cashier check. Like, say, for instance, if I was going to buy a house, I would just send all the girls to different banks, and they would come back with cashier's checks, and we go deposit them, and nobody would say nothing.
These days, though, nah.
No,
that's not gonna fly.
No. So and then you have people that would take the money, and clean up for you. You had car dealers that, you bring them $100,000, they put on paper that you bought them 20.
They would keep the 80 or
no? They keep
the 20.
They got to pay for the car, but on paper it looks like you only paid 20. So if somebody questioned you about the car, you'd be like, I only paid $20,000 for it. So. That ain't no big deal, even though it's a $100,000 car.
But were there actual cleanup guys? Because you hear these stories of these banks and these kind of shadowy figures that you bring them $1 million and they'll give you $900,000 back.
I'm sure, yeah, it was.
But you weren't really dealing with guys like this.
Yeah, somewhat. I used to deal with a guy named Bill Little. He was one of the biggest real estate owners in California. and he would take, for a house that he was selling for $300,000, you could give him $200 and owed him $100, and he made it look like you only paid $100,000 for it.
Mm. And he would just pocket it.
Yeah, he didn't want to pay taxes on the money. So it did him a favor, Now there's $200,000 that he don't have to pay taxes on, and it did you a favor because now you just made $200,000 on paper.
Mm.
It looks like you just made $200,000.
Everyone walks away.
I did mine more with real estate. Real estate was really easy. You could build, like my motel. I built my motel for $290,000, and nobody know what I paid for it. It was just like a building just appeared on this property. We don't know where he got the wood from. You don't know where he got the windows from, and nobody really followed up back then. It wasn't like I imagine it is right now.
Yeah, I bet. Paper trails, electronic transfers, everything else like that, video cameras, pretty hard to really launder money in the same way that it was back then, I'm sure.
It's probably people that's making it easier.
I bet.
Wherever they come up with a method of stopping it, somebody's gonna come up with a way to get around it. So
yeah, well, now you got Bitcoin and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So that brings a whole level. And I've always said that the only, what I would say, killer app for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general is illegal activities. Other than that, Bitcoin and credit cards work pretty much the same. And credit cards are a lot more stable, price-wise.
Yeah.
You're not going to buy something for $1,000 with a credit card and have it be worth $500 the next day, like with Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? But for legal activities, Bitcoin is actually, you want to go on the dark web or whatever else, Bitcoin is
Bitcoin to be used.
Yeah.
I never tried it.
Yeah, me neither.
A couple of times I wish I would have. It took some big hits, upward. And I was like, damn, I should have bought when they told me to. And then a couple weeks later, it went under what I would have bought it for. So it's kind of like gambling to me.
Well, it is gambling.
Yeah.
It's exactly like gambling.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you and Harry O were locked up together.
Yep.
How long were you guys locked up in the same prison?
We stayed cellies for about, I think I stayed in MDC for about a year at that time that we were together. I wasn't cellies with him the whole time though. I was cellies with Bo for a couple months. And then Harry. After I left Bo's cell, I went straight to Harry. Me and Harry were cellies after that.
Okay. And while you guys were cellies, was he still involved in Death Row Records, or was that at the point that
when I moved in the cell, that it wasn't no Death Row?
This was before.
This was before Death Row, yeah.
Right, because I remember you talked about how you potentially, could have been an investor in Death Row, but he jumped on it. And you told him, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Well, no, that was Dr. Dre.
Oh, that was Dre.
That was Dr. Dre. Yeah, Harry was doing Lydia's album when I got there. He was already working on Lydia's album, and when he was doing it, Harry used to get all the magazines in the cell, like everything, every magazine that you could imagine. He had them coming in, and I started going through the magazines, and I saw in one of the magazines that Dre and Easy wasn't getting along, and they were saying that Dre was having some financial troubles in the article. So I told Harry, I said, why don't you let Dre produce Lydia? Now you're gonna have a hit on your hands, and Dre need the money. And I told him that if he didn't want to get Dre some money, that I was gonna give him some money. And Harry just took over the whole situation. Yeah,
and that eventually became Death Row Records.
Yeah, well, he went from there because he didn't know Dre. I didn't know Dre. Neither one of us really knew how to get in touch with Dre at that time. And you're working from jail, so your phone is not, it's not like the phones you got here. Where you just get on and call all day long. We had ways that we manipulated to get on the phone longer, but really you only had 15 minutes on the phone.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So you had to work those 15 minutes. Every minute that you was on the phone, you had to be working. So eventually he found Ron Brown, who knew Suge, and that's how the connection came together.
Right. And, you mentioned the whole phone thing. I remember I interviewed the former president of Solar Records, and the whole thing was there was a phone in the studio that was specifically for Harry O.
You talking about Dick Griffey?
Yeah. Well, no, it was Dick Griffey at the time, but then Virgil Roberts.
Yeah, I know Virgil.
You know who that is? Right.
Yeah, I know Virgil.
Right. So I interviewed Virgil Roberts, and we talked about, when Death Row was in Solar Records studios at the time, and there was a phone that was specifically designed for Harry O to call, and no one was allowed to call it or use that phone. Yeah. And then these producers got on the phone when Suge told them to get off. They said, hold on, I'm going to finish. And then Suge ended up basically pulling out a pistol. And
we get a phone bill from the studio floor that was something like, I want to say $8,000 for a month.
Okay.
So Griffey calls Suge in, and he says, look at this bill. This is ridiculous. If you can't get those knuckleheads down there to stop using the phone, I'm going to throw you out. So that night, Suge comes into the building, goes up to the third floor, and one of the Stanley brothers was on the phone. And I wasn't there, so this is what was reported to me, that he asked the guy to get off the phone. And he said, and I think the Stanley brothers had been part of the world-class wrecking crew. And they were actually there to try and get Dre, who by then is becoming known as a hit producer, to do something for them. And so he tells Suge, he didn't know who Suge really was. He said, hey, look, I'm one of Dre's guests. Go talk to him. And Suge said, I don't talk to him. I run this. He said, man, go, leave me alone. So Suge apparently goes out, goes back downstairs to his car, gets a gun, comes back, puts the gun to his head, and says, motherfucker, I told you to get off the phone. So then he hangs up the phone, and Suge takes him into the major room. We had the studio, we had a big, it was a big studio, because we constructed it in the days when you made records with musicians. And so, in the olden days, if you wanted to do a string date, you would bring in the string section from the LA Philharmonic, and that's how you do string overdubs and stuff. So we had a studio that was big enough to accommodate all those. So Suge brings him into the studio and has everybody, people from the rehearsal. He said, I want you all to come in here. And he said, this is what's going to happen if you use that phone. And so he tells the guy, take off his clothes. And he says, I'm not taking off my clothes. So then he shoots the gun he has by the guy's ear.
Pistol whipping him
straight. Oh, I heard naked. About that. I heard about that incident. I didn't know that was there, though.
That was there.
It was there?
Yep.
Yeah, I know. I went and saw, when I got out, Dick took me through and showed me, how he had helped Suge get on. And he was mad at Suge because he negotiated that deal with Interscope for Suge. Mm-hmm. And he felt that Suge and them crossed him out on the deal because he felt that he should have been. Those are some of the guys that Dick is one of the guys the reason that I probably wasn't the king of hip hop. Mm. He's one of the guys that talked me out of hip hop.
Right. I remember I interviewed Teray, the journalist, mm-hmm. and he went to go interview Suge at Death Row, and he had a little portable, tape recorder, back then, and he's doing the interview, and Suge is answering all the questions, and he's like, "So, what's up with the Dick Griffey lawsuit?" And that's when everything went left. He was saying how, one of Suge's guys came in, he was around like a pit bull, was like, this motherfucker talking about lawsuits. Like, what? Suge's like, hold on.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that.
You don't want to hear that. He's like, and he made Teray redo the entire interview and answer the questions exactly the same.
And take
without basically erase everything and redo the whole interview. But he said he answered the questions exactly the same every time. Suge was actually very smart, from what I understand.
I didn't really get to kick it with Suge. When I got out in '93, I didn't know that Suge and Harry O was beefing. And my guy used to run Soul Train, Reggie Rutherford, rest in peace, he died last year. So Reggie called me and say, hey, Suge and Snoop and Jermaine Dupri is here on the set. You need to come down and holler at him. So I shoot down and I'm rapping to him. And Suge remembers me from jail. When he used to come and visit Harry, we all be in the same room and we all be talking. He's like, oh man, come on man, let's get together, let's do it. I heard you doing the theater, and was really open-armed. But then I get a call from Harry, like, hey man, back up off dude. Don't mess with dude.
So because they were beefing.
I didn't know. He didn't tell me that they was beefing or nothing like that. But I respected his wish, because that's how we'd always, did. Like, I ain't gonna be stepping on your toes, don't step on my toes. And I respected that. But I only wonder what would have happened if I would have went on and started working with Suge. From that day, I might have not even went back to jail in '93, when they set me up. Mm-hmm. But me and Suge was always cool. I never had no beefs with Suge at all.
Well, Harry gets pardoned by Trump. Did that surprise you?
It did.
Okay. Surprised everybody. How do you think he got that?
Well, Trump was trying to make some statements, I believe, to seem non-racist. So he needed to let some guys out because he had let so many of his cronies out. Then he needed to have some other controversial people from I believe, from a different side of the fence.
Okay, fair enough. Well, he gets out, and he does his first post-prison interview with, I believe, Daily Mail. Did you watch that at all?
No.
Well, he actually cried during parts of the interview. And he said that they tricked me into helping me kill my own people. You yourself don't feel that same type of remorse.
No, I don't.
I've never seen you cry or, really feel like you didn't do anything that would have gotten done anyways.
Well, I mean, I don't go back in the past. What's been done has been done, and I'm living in the future now. If you want to beat me up about me selling cocaine when I was 19 years old, when I was dumb as a rock, when I was the guy that used to climb through the back seat and pop the trunk of cars, then you hold me responsible for that. But I'm not holding myself responsible anymore. I'm moving forward. I'm loving life. I'm living my best life.
Yeah.
And I hope that Harry forgives himself, and allow himself to move on, because Harry's one of the sharpest guys that I've been around. He did a lot for me when I was in jail, with getting me reading books, and he taught me about magazines, that I could really read magazines and find out what was going on outside the world, I can't think. He gave me one of my favorite books too, but I can't think of the name of it. It's about the guy who created Time Warner and what's the name? It was his book.
Stephen J. Ross?
Yeah, that's his name. That's the author. But I can't think of the name of the book. The book had a title, a winning title. Something about winning. But anyway, he gave me a lot of the game that I use right now today. I had to give him some credit for putting me on that path.
Yeah, when I interviewed Lil D, he said that Harry O is the smartest drug dealer he's ever met.
But let me say this too, man. When you talk about guys that was in the streets hustling and that was brilliant here, the most brilliant guy I ever met in the streets that was hustling was Michael Harris, Harry O, out of Los Angeles. That's the smartest, business-minded dude that I ever met that come from the streets.
I ain't gonna say that, but he's pretty smart.
Right, and I actually spoke to Harry O over the weekend. We had done an interview with Boosie, and when I brought up Harry O's name, Boosie said some things about Harry in a disparaging manner because Boosie's real close to Jay Prince, and Harry O and Jay Prince had some friction. So Boosie said some things that about Harry that we found out actually weren't accurate after the fact. Boosie was just kind of going off the cuff. So, Lil D called me. We ended up, correcting, some of the things on there. And then me and Harry spoke. And, initially he was upset, and I had a conversation with him. I explained to him what had happened and, what my role in this was. And I explained to him that things were corrected. And he, at the end of the conversation, he was like, I respect all that. And,
yeah, I knew him and Jay had some issues.
Yeah.
But I stay out of their business. That's their business. I'm friends with Jay. I'm friends with Harry. And if they don't put me in it, I ain't in it.
Right. You just did an interview with Jay Prince.
I did.
How do you guys know each other?
Through Harry.
Through Harry. Okay. That's interesting. Because, even though don't want to put yourself into it, I mean, what's happening right now is that I guess at one point Harry O felt that he helped start Rap a Lot, and Jay Prince saying that's not true. And there's some friction over that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know what happened with that. I just know they was friends. I became friends with him, through the ordeal. And that's as far as I know about their business. I don't know if he helped start Rap a Lot or not. I've heard those same rumors, but I know absolutely nothing about that.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I have spoken to people who were there during the start of Rap a Lot, and they're not familiar with Harry O's involvement in that at all.
Yeah.
So that's from my point of view. Now, were there things going on that they were not aware of? Maybe. But I'm talking about, and I'm not going to put any names out, but the actual people that were around during the very start. That was the first time they even heard of that when I brought it up. So who knows? Who knows? Hopefully it'll get worked out at some point. Harry looks like a guy, based on my conversation, that is very intelligent, that does not want to go back to prison. That's happy to be out, and hopefully he'll make some good contributions. Now that he's out.
He will. Harry worked. Tireless worker. All day. From the time the doors open till they close, and at night, writing scripts, books. He was going hard. He had learned when we got to prison. He had already learned how to do time.
Because he was locked up for what, 30 years?
Yeah, I think he had been in jail like 2 years when I got there. He'd already been down 2 years.
Yeah, it's quite a stretch. Quite a stretch. Like half his life, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe more.
Yeah. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Balling out for a few years and then spending the second half of your life locked up. I can't see a reward for that.
No, it's not worth it. Even the 20 years I did, with what I've learned about life is that I wouldn't do it for the money again.
I don't think anyone would.
Yeah, some people don't learn.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
I know guys that get out and go right back. Matter of fact, while they're in prison, they plan on doing it, and they read the law books to know exactly how much time they're going to get when they get back.
Yeah. Well, along with Harry O, Lil Wayne got pardoned by Trump. Now, I predicted this last November. You can watch my interviews with TK Kirkland, where I said, after the photo had surfaced of Wayne and Trump, I said, Wayne has a federal gun charge. This is going to be his second offense for the same thing. He's facing, I think, 10 years. He took that photo for a pardon. And everyone said, that's bullshit. That's not going to happen. Sure enough, Wayne got that pardon. Does that surprise you?
Not that he would do it. Not that he would take the photo.
Yeah.
I would take a photo to get out of 10 years.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah. So no, that don't surprise me. I never paid attention to the photo. I don't really get into I do get into politics somewhat, but not too heavy. I'm so busy with me, like I got so much business going on that it's hard for me to really like pay attention to what other people are doing or what they got going on. And And then, with the pandemic being the way it has, lost a few friends in it, and it just keeps me tied up and keeps my mind evolving. I got to keep evolving. I can't stand still.
Yeah. Well, Kodak Black also got pardoned.
I heard about that one too.
Before he was pardoned, he had someone for him, I assume, go on Twitter, and he promised to donate $1 million if Trump freed him. Then after he got freed, he deleted that tweet. I said, what tweet? Well, I didn't say that. What are you talking about?
So they just playing Trump all over the board.
Yeah, I mean, his lawyer responded to it, said, oh no, that had nothing to do with it. That whole tweet was sort of, you can't do stuff like that anyways. You can't promise to donate money in exchange for a pardon. So that was taken off, even before. But apparently it was taken down right after he got pardoned. So
well, I don't know. I mean, I think LA Times did an investigation before, even with Bill Clinton, where this drug lord son had went to prison, and he was able to finagle his way in and get his son a pardon from Clinton. So it happens.
Yeah, I mean, how do pardons really come about? Because a presidential pardon means that you could pardon anyone in the U.S., in the federal system,
right.
Not state, federal only. Because I remember Boosie did this whole thing, how he was so upset that Steve Murder didn't get pardoned, and I had to explain to him that Steve Murder has a state case.
Right.
That Trump can't do anything. But when you have a federal prison sentence, the U.S. president, usually on his last day of office, so he doesn't have to hear anything from anyone, can pardon whoever he wants and then just walk away with no explanation.
Yeah.
Now Trump gave little explanations for people, whatever else, but it's not anything that he has to answer to. Have you heard of anyone actually going through the means to get a pardon? Or do you just,
the normal way? The
Yeah.
normal way?
What's the normal way?
Lots of people. You file to you write a letter to the president, and his attorney will get it. They'll read it, and they'll look at the merits, look at how long you've been in prison, and they'll decide if they're going to give you a pardon. Little D got a pardon from Obama.
Little D did get a pardon. You're right. He got his from Obama. Yeah, he got his sentence commuted. We talked about this.
Yeah, he got one.
We talked about this.
I mean, Obama did. Obama did quite a few people. So I know about 10 people got him.
And it was just from letters, or is it through connections?
These guys didn't really have the connections. They just, was crack dealers that, got caught with quite a bit of crack, more than what you're supposed to, and got a lot of time. And Obama didn't feel that the time was justified for the crime.
Mm. Yeah. Well, look, I'm glad these guys are out. I'm glad Wayne and Harry O and Kodak Black are out. From what I understand, Kodak Black has another charge that he's still facing. But for now, I believe he's out. He actually tattooed his lawyer's name on his hand after he got out.
Maybe his lawyer might have had to contact him.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, because that's usually how it works. Yeah. You hire a lawyer. I mean, from reading the articles, what they do is they hire a lawyer that's went to school with the president's lawyer, and they cut a deal.
Well, since last time that we did our interview in September, a lot of violence happened in hip hop. King Von got killed. You heard about that?
Is that the guy in Texas?
No. King Von is actually from Chicago. The guy in Texas is Mo 3.
Okay. Yeah, I heard about both of them. I heard about both of them.
King Von was the first one who got killed. He got killed in Atlanta. He got into a fight with Quando Rondo. They had been beefing on social media over some nonsense. And they ran into each other. And it was almost like a Tupac situation. Von ran up on Quando and just started punching him in the face. And then a fight broke out, and allegedly one of Quando's guys pulled out a gun and killed him. It really was like echoing the Tupac situation, where if this guy didn't run up on him, he would be
still living today.
Still living today. When the Tupac thing happened, were you locked up?
I was locked up.
Yeah.
That was my first 6 months. I think he got locked up about 6 months after I was in jail.
Yeah.
I mean, he got killed about 6 months after I went to jail.
I mean, have you seen these types of things happen? You know, where a fight just turns into a murder?
All the time. I lived in South Central.
So that was happening all the time.
Yeah, that's how gangs kill each other.
Yeah.
Start off as a fight, and you know somebody can't take it, and they go get their gun and they kill the other one.
Why would most people get into that situation knowing that there might be gunplay involved?
They can't think.
Mm.
You know, if you can think, if you're a logical thinking person, then you would figure a way around that situation, which is what I always try to do whenever I'm put in a situation is I try to figure out what's the most advantageous way for me to get out of this situation. I mean, even in jail, you know, I be on the basketball court and foul somebody, and next thing you know, tempers is hot and everybody ready to fight. But you got to keep a cool head because you know if you fight, somebody might go get a knife.
Oh yeah, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
You know, the homies ain't gonna let you play it down. You know, like, man, you gonna let him do you like that? You got to handle that.
I mean, before prison, did anyone ever try to physically assault you as you were going about your day, about your business?
I was almost kidnapped before.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Almost kidnapped?
Yeah, I got in the car. I mean, they put the gun in my head, and it was my car. I turned my car around, and I was getting ready to get out. And when I got out, it was a guy and a lady. And the lady, she was a nice looking lady, and I was looking like, damn. And before I knew it, they called my name. They said, Rick. And I turned, and then he put the gun in my head. And then he told me to get back in the car. I was getting back in the car. I got lucky. It's in my book. All that's in my book. Mm-hmm. And you know, we had a no kidnap policy. We ain't paying no ransoms. You know, that was our motto. We don't pay ransoms.
Oh, even if it's you?
Even if it's me. You know, my rules go for me too.
Why did you have that rule?
Because we don't want nobody trying to kidnap us.
Okay, so before your kidnapping, were any of your guys ever kidnapped?
Mm-mm.
No.
They kidnapped one of my partner's daughter one time.
Oh.
But other than that, nobody from our crew got kidnapped.
Okay, and what happened with the whole daughter situation?
He called the FBI.
Aha. And they went and got her.
Mm-hmm. And called the guys.
That almost reminds me of the Paid in Full story. You know, AZ Faisan, when I interviewed him. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know AZ.
You know, the whole Rich Porter situation. Rich Porter's little brother got kidnapped by like the uncle or something.
Well, you know, in LA, kidnapping had got to be big though, you know.
Yeah, this was New York. But yeah, they ended up kidnapping the little brother.
Like maybe
and then
85, you know, guys getting out of prison had turned that had become the new hustle, you know, kidnap drug dealers or their kids. Right,
because what do you do? Okay, so this was one of your workers whose daughter got kidnapped?
More like a partner, you know. He did his own thing, you know, but we did stuff together too.
Okay, so me calling the FBI is a lot different than a drug dealer calling the FBI.
Yeah. And I mean, he had a lot of problems doing it. You know, he didn't just do it as soon as it happened. You know, he was talking to everybody and asking questions. I imagine he probably talked to everybody. He probably, you know, because he knew all of us, Harry O. I mean, he knew everybody.
Okay.
So he called me and asked me, man, what you think? You know, they got my daughter.
What'd you tell him?
I told him that I would call the feds too. My most important thing would be getting my daughter back, you know. And he was wondering if he thought if he paid the ransom that they may not give his daughter back.
How much was the ransom?
I think they only wanted like $100,000, $300,000.
$300,000. Okay, when the FBI came and got the daughter back, did they start to look into who he was?
No, they didn't care.
Oh, okay. So it actually worked out.
Yeah, they only wanted one thing, to get her back.
And they got her back.
Yeah, they got her back. A couple hours. They called. It's crazy. Because me and the daughter is like way cool. She's more my age than he is. He's older than I am. And she was just telling me how the guy goes to the phone booth, because they using phone booths back then when we still had phone booths, to call to make the transaction. And by the time he hit the phone booth, they said the feds had surrounded the phone booth and followed him back to the house where they had the girl that surrounded the house, and got on the bullhorn and said, y'all might well come on out. We got the house surrounded.
Sure, they had a hard time in prison. You know, a bunch of guys would kidnap a little girl. I don't think they get treated too well.
I don't know. I forgot they was from a gang, you know, so they probably,
Yeah,
you know, they probably didn't have too hard a time.
I got you. Well, the Texas murder you're talking about is Mo 3, who I'd actually interviewed him once. Very fucked up situation. Very cool guy, definitely a very high talent. And I remember I'd interviewed him maybe about a year and a half ago. And I said, you know, you have, you know, beef with people in Dallas. You know, there's a very well-publicized beef that had been going on for a while. You know, he talked about how he was getting death threats and there was, you know, rumors of money on his head and everything else like that. And I said, well, do you have security with you everywhere you go? He goes, nah. He's like, that's not necessary. You know, no one's trying to chase me down or nothing else like that.
Security sometimes is with me with the shows and stuff. You know, when the promoter booked me, you know, they got their own security, you know, that accommodate me and shit. Shout out to them, you know. But other than that, like, I ain't worried about none of that, Vlad. So, you know, I ain't got no security. I'm not out here, nobody chasing me down, trying to do nothing to me. So I ain't worried about none of that.
And that's exactly how he died, actually. There's a guy that waited in front of his house. Well, I guess he was at a girl's house. There was a guy that waited in front of that house all night. When he left, the guy ended up basically chasing his car down and getting out the car and killing him, right?
Wow.
In broad daylight.
In broad daylight?
Broad daylight. Yep. There was pictures of the guy, you know, with a gun out, you know, wearing a mask. They caught the guy within about a week or so, and he's awaiting trial at this point. Very sad situation. Very, very sad situation. And then Boosie ended up going down to Dallas for the vigil and ended up getting shot in the leg.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
Yeah. I just interviewed Boosie, actually.
Huh?
Yep. I just interviewed him about that.
Oh, yeah.
And in true Boosie fashion, he said, I said, so what happened exactly? He said, I don't know. I was asleep in the car and I woke up in the hospital. I didn't see nothing. I don't know nothing. He said police showed up. He said like 5 different cops would like go to the hospital bed. And he kept telling them, I don't know. What kind of car were you in?
I don't know, man. I woke up and I was shot. I was in the hospital.
Okay. So you don't want to talk about that whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, I woke up.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? They ain't got no police report or nothing.
Really?
I told them, nah, ain't no police report or nothing.
Okay. So we don't have to talk about the actual situation.
I woke up, I was in the hospital.
Okay.
Laughing.
Laughing?
Yeah, you know when you get shot, it's a blessing. Because God can take you.
Because you're still alive.
Yeah.
So you were happy that you were alive?
Yeah, every time I get shot at, I'm happy I'm alive.
Okay. I mean, it's always interesting how the street code applies to people even when they're the victims themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's just people adopt philosophies and they hold them dear to themselves, you know, and that's what they live by and that's what they die by. And I get it, you know. It just don't make no sense to me though, you know, that these guys are having so much money and the fame and they would take that and put it at risk for really no reasons at all, far as I'm concerned. I don't think nothing is worth dying for.
When you were active, was there like a no talking to police rule across the board for you and your team?
No, we never talked about that.
No?
No. We never sit down and talked about, you know, what would happen if the police came in and what we was gonna say. We never made that plan.
Well, you've had people actually snitch on you and cooperate.
Yep.
So maybe that talk should have been had at some point, you know. And
well,
the
I mean,
repercussions
some of them
those
wasn't.
actions.
Some of them wasn't part of my crew. Some of them
Yeah.
was, but it don't matter if you had that talk. You know, when somebody's looking at 40, 50 years, you know, you're talking about them really being dead. You know, for over half of their life. You know, what decisions they gonna make.
Yeah. I mean, how many people really stand firm when facing life or facing 30, 40 years? You know, the RICO laws is what changed everything from what I understand.
Yeah, it's hard.
Do you remember when RICO first came in effect?
No, I didn't know about RICO until I got to prison.
Aha.
I didn't pay attention to the law. You know, my thing was I was more concerned about not getting caught. You know, not being, not getting caught with no drugs. You know, I'm like, if I don't get caught with no drugs, I'm good. You know, and that's what I thought until the feds came up with the conspiracy and that changed the game where you didn't need to have drugs in your possession. I always felt that the police could never catch me with drugs in my possession. That was our motto. We talked about that. That's what my team, we worked on, not ever being caught with drugs in our possession.
Right. Because conspiracy means that you're not actually doing the crime, but you were somehow involved in it based on what other people are saying.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Not necessarily. It could be what they're saying or, what they could prove, I mean, a conspiracy is if I know you're going to do a drug crime and I let you use my car to go and do that crime, then I just aided and abetted you in that crime. And then now my charges is the same as your charges. If you go and kill somebody, I can be charged with that same murder.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said this, for example, in that same vein of what you're talking about, if me and you go and do a crime and you kill somebody in the process, I'm now charged with that same murder, right?
If me and you doing a crime together?
Yeah.
Yeah, you charged with the same murder.
The same, even though I didn't have the gun, I didn't pull the trigger. If I'm part of the crime.
You're going to have to prove that you didn't know he had a gun.
Right.
And that you didn't know he was going to kill him. Those are the things that you will have to prove, and that's going to be hard to prove.
Right.
Because that comes down now to the state of your mind. And, if a jury going to be looking like, oh, you went to the crime to do a robbery, so now you're going to say that you wasn't with the murder and you wasn't with the gun.
Right.
It's kind of hard to. But it's happened people who have had their cases overturned for that. But
yeah. I mean, because, for example, you look at the Capitol building attack that happened. 5 people died in the process for the hillbillies that ran up in there and 1 cop. And I don't see how Donald Trump isn't somehow tied into these deaths.
He would be if he wasn't the president.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he would be. If it wasn't, the thing about with Donald Trump's situation is it could cause a civil war. If they try to lock up Donald Trump, you're talking about 70 million people is going. And I was watching a program last night, matter of fact, on CNN, where they were saying that these people look at Donald Trump as a Jesus, almost as a God. So if you try to lock him up, even though they've locked other people up like that, the blind sheik, that the Muslim guy, he got locked up and he was blind because they said that he told his people to do certain things. But yeah, they could lock. Technically, They could lock Donald Trump up.
That's what I'm saying. For example, you look at that exact same situation. You take Donald Trump off that stage, you put in Al Sharpton.
He'd be in jail right now.
See what I'm saying? Al Sharpton riled up a mob of people saying that he was cheated and robbed and they need to go down there and fight for the truth and he's going to meet him down there. And in the process, 5 people die, I can guarantee you Al Sharpton will be in prison right now with no bond.
Oh, no question. No question. I totally agree.
Okay, I'm glad someone agrees with me.
No, I have
everyone else I've talked to like, no, you're going too far with this.
No, he should be in jail.
He should be in jail.
He organized the riot. I mean, he organized the rally. He also told him that we're gonna walk down the street together.
Yeah, I'm gonna meet you down there.
So that's a conspiracy.
That's a conspiracy. And that's my point right there.
That's a conspiracy.
What you described as a conspiracy is exactly what I saw that.
He would have to prove that he didn't know that those people were going to break in the White House. And then it's a few things, they got things where you can withdraw from the conspiracy, after a certain while, where you can say, you know what, I ain't no longer with it. But it's complicated. But yeah, they could. I believe if I was a prosecutor, I could indict him for what he did.
Yeah, but from what I understand, he got impeached in the lower house, but in the upper house, he's not going to get impeached. The Senate, the Senate's, you're not going to get a 2/3 because I think that 5 Republicans even voted to even go forward with the impeachment, and they need 17 in order to get a 2/3 majority. So that's just not going to happen.
Well, this country is really, really divided right now. With race relationships, the racial thing is like at an all-time high, and Trump played off of that. He played them right into his position where he wanted them at, and the Senate, they don't know what to do. If they go against him, they're gonna lose their seat next time around, possibly.
I don't know about that.
It's possible.
There is a possibility, but I don't know. Like, you also want to be on the right side of history.
I agree.
And to side with a traitor, with someone who tried to overthrow the government, because I really think that that was really an attempted coup.
It was a coup.
Yeah.
It was. They had guns.
Yeah. They had zip ties.
Yeah, that was a coup. And they were talking about killing the representatives.
They wanted to hang Pence.
Nancy Pelosi.
All the Democrats.
Yeah, a whole bunch of
AOC, them. Everybody.
Yeah, so it was a coup. I mean, it was something that I never thought that I would ever see in America.
I know, right? When you were watching that on TV or the internet or however else you saw it, me personally, I felt embarrassed. I knew nothing was really going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Because the military was not going to
I didn't really feel embarrassed. I saw what blacks have been going through in this country forever.
Meaning?
Well, when I was growing up in Texas, we used to have to jump in the ditch when a car come by. Because of races. So what I saw is the same people now saying that, okay, if you guys gonna back this, then we're gonna get you too. We're gonna take you out just like we'll take them out. And it wasn't necessarily surprising. I've been saying it was going to happen. I told him it was going to happen 8 months ago. I said, Donald Trump ain't going out the White House.
Yeah. Well, he went out the White House, though.
Yeah, they almost had to carry him out.
He's the same zip ties to hog tie him.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like I said, to me, it was embarrassing because, I remember my cameraman when I came in, he said that the U.S. is looking like a banana republic right now.
Well, but to black people, we always looked at it like that. George Floyd was just the first time they showed it on national TV, where they choked him out. But, I done been choked, beaten the head with flashlights, let dogs bite me while I'm zip tied. My feet are zip tied, my hands behind my back. They let a dog bite me. They plant drugs on us. I mean, go in court and lie in court. And I mean, this ain't nothing new to us. We totally used to this.
There was maybe a small handful of black people that actually made it inside the Capitol building. I saw 1, maybe 2.
Yeah, I saw 1 or 2 in pictures. I didn't see him in the Capitol building, but
I saw him in pictures.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I bet he in jail.
What do you think would have happened if it was a mob of black people?
Oh, well, they'd have been shot out. They'd have been shot down in the streets.
Just a mass murder, basically.
I mean, look, I see a cop. They got a cop, and they squeezing him in the door.
Yeah.
They squeezing him. And this guy is like he's in excruciating pain, and none of the cops do nothing.
Well, to be fair, right? Because I have to play devil's advocate. The cops were vastly outnumbered. Okay. There was a whole situation where they purposely put less cops out there because of the optics. I've interviewed the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser. So I know people in that administration. They were calling for the National Guard to come in and being turned down by Trump's people because they didn't want it to look bad. So with the cops being as outnumbered as they were and the mob of people potentially being armed in mass, I think the cops were in fear of their lives in terms of shooting people.
No, I'm not arguing with that, but I'm saying if some blacks would have had a white cop pinning the door like that there, and it was 10 or 15 other cops standing behind them with their pistols, some people would have got shot.
I got you. Can't argue with that.
So what I'm saying is that they definitely treated the mob different. They even say they was even taking pictures with them. You know, some of the cops were taking pictures with, you know, so we know that mentality is we've been knowing that it was inside the police force. Yeah. You know, that's not telling us nothing we didn't know. We already knew that a lot of the cops are racist, you know, and that's the one way that they take out their frustrations or whatever that they have is by becoming police officers and punishing us. So the only thing I'm saying is that would never happen with black guys squeezing a cop like that. I mean, I just talked to, what's his name, on my show the other night, and he was walking away with a knife and they shot him in the back.
Yeah.
And paralyzed him.
Wow.
So, you know, when you're saying that they was actively squeezing that man, you know, I'm talking about hurting him and they didn't do nothing. So we know this a double standard.
Well, one lady got shot by a cop.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Trying to jump through the window. That room cleared out nice and quick. No one wanted a piece of that.
Well, that's the way they would have showed. If it had been a black mob, that's the way they would have did all of them.
Yeah.
They just start firing off. And, you know, we don't know how many people would have died in that incident.
I agree. I guess this one rather portly lady who had been walking around with a sign that said, "Don't tread on me," ended up getting trampled to death. Somewhat ironic. One guy had like a heart attack. One guy, I think, tased himself and had a stroke. Then the cop got killed. Just a fucking mess. Yeah. Just a mess. Based on, you know, the whole QAnon conspiracy that the election was stolen and everything else like that. It's really just pathetic, honestly. That's how I look at it. Like I said, I was embarrassed.
And the way we've been handling the virus too. You know, that's another you know, Trump fuck up where he really like let the country down because he didn't come forward and let everybody know what he already knew, you know.
I agree.
We probably would be in a much better shape, you know, than
Oh yeah.
Because, you know, when I did your show, remember I came on and we talked about it, and he had more information than I had, you know. He could have let the people know. We probably would be through this thing already.
I mean, are you going to take the vaccine when your name comes up?
Nope.
You're not?
Mm-mm.
Why is that?
I don't need to.
Because?
I take vitamin D3.
Okay. I take vitamin D3 as well.
And zinc.
Yep.
I've got about 5 people out the hospital.
Okay.
I've showed them how to get out the hospital. Remember, I told you I know the doctor that had the lick. We couldn't get him on your show, though.
Yeah. Yeah, he had canceling on us, unfortunately.
But he showed us how to do it.
And that is D3.
D3, high dose of D3. Zinc.
And that helps.
That's it.
And you know something? A guy I know out in West Virginia, he mentioned the D3 thing to me as well. And I actually went online and did some research. And in fact, in actual legitimate medical websites, they say that there does seem to be some sort of connection between D3.
Doc is a
deficiency.
legitimate doctor. Doc might
Yeah.
be one of the baddest doctors on the planet. He should be right now. He should be standing right there with Dr. Fauci and President Biden. He's probably taking more body parts out of people's body than any doctor on the planet.
Huh.
So he knows about infections. I mean, he's a funny dude. Dr. Lester Matthews, he tell me, we say, when we was going to school, them dudes wasn't studying, they was getting drunk, smoking weed. He said they could go and pay the teacher. He said, I couldn't. He said, I had to study. So I believe that he's one of the sharpest doctors living right now. I mean, I think he's a medical miracle for us. And nobody listens to him. You know, even me having friends that I told, you know, they still didn't do it until after they caught it, and then they started doing it, and they've gotten better. But you know, my bubble is probably around 50 people, and nobody in my bubble has caught it.
Well, I'm going to take the vaccine as soon as it's available, 100%. I'll take it even sooner, you know, if I somehow get access to it. You know, I believe in the science behind it. Now there's more vaccines that are out. I mean, Pfizer and Moderna have been approved. Johnson
Doc
Johnson.
told me.
What's
Let me
that?
tell you what he told me.
Let's hear it.
He said they've been trying to do a vaccine for the common cold for 50, 60 years, and they ain't did it. How they gonna come up with a vaccine for the COVID virus in 1 year? He said they ain't proved it. Everything ain't been tested yet.
Well, 30 million people around the world have taken the vaccine, and it appears like they're not catching COVID, and if they are, it's very slight cases. So I'll go with what's actually being out there. We could agree to
Yeah,
disagree. On
I mean, that's cool, but we still don't know the long-term effects of what's going to happen with this vaccine. You know, they've never tried to alter your DNA the way that this vaccine.
They're not altering DNA. That's not what they're doing. I know that that's one of the things that's being put out there, but they're not actually altering your DNA. It's just not true.
Well, they are, because what it does is the vaccine boosts your immune system,
Right.
and that's altering your DNA.
Not exactly. Not
Right.
exactly. They're basically offering a level of protection against this virus replicating, but they're not actually altering your actual DNA. It's not DNA splicing or anything else.
No,
like that.
but it alters it because it allows your immune. It does the same thing really what vitamin D does. Vitamin D boosts your immune system, and that's the same thing that this chip that they send inside you, it boosts your immune system as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at a Forbes article right now. COVID-19 vaccines can't alter your DNA. Here's why. mRNA is naturally made by the body. It encodes instructions for your body cells to make protein. Any mRNA vaccine has the same purpose: to teach and train your body to make an immune response toward a particular pathogen. So if the pathogen gets into your body, your immune system can attack it. They're not actually altering your DNA. Like I said, we agree to disagree. I'll take the vaccine. You cannot take it. It's all good. It's all good.
I mean, it's cool, but if that's what if you need it. But vitamin D, you know, I'm a firm believer in the vitamin D. You know, I have total confidence that if somebody I knew caught COVID, that I can have them well in 2 or 3 days.
All right.
With my limited medical experience.
There we go. How many daughters do you have?
3.
3. How does it feel for a man that has 3 black daughters to see Kamala Harris as the vice president of the United States?
I never really equated her to my daughters, but the fact that she's there, I'm glad. You know, this is my first time ever voting.
Oh, you voted?
I voted. Yes,
That's what's up. Because I believe in California, what are the rules for voting as a felon? You could vote as long as you're not on parole.
You have to be off parole for a certain amount of time.
You're off parole. There you
go.
And since you're off parole, you could vote. First time in your life?
Yeah.
I voted as well. Not the first time in my life. I think it's the second time in my life that I voted.
Well, I never felt the need to have to vote before. But this time I felt that if Donald Trump had got another term in the country, that he would have towed his country all the way up.
I agree.
We'd have been in shambles.
I agree.
So I felt there was a need for me to get out and vote, and also spread the word that we should get him out of there.
I agree. And the one thing that I had forgotten, since I hadn't voted in like 20-something years, is that you're not just voting for the president. There's a whole bunch of local stuff that you're voting for.
Yeah.
The judges,
Congressman.
laws when it comes to prison, a lot of stuff that really people should care about. And it's funny how when I talk to certain guests who say, well, I'm not voting, I'm never voting, and I'm telling them all this stuff, you know, like, oh, listen, you got a racist judge in your county, you know you can vote him out, right? And they just didn't even know. They had no idea that you could do that.
Yeah.
And yet these judges stay decade after decade while the people who they're hurting the most just don't vote.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
But why do you think that is?
Well, they don't see the importance of it. Most of us feel like it don't matter who's in the White House. Anyway, they're not going to do anything for us. So why even bother? I mean, that was my attitude.
Yeah, well, I think after this election, people have gotten a lot more political. You were sort of forced on, into it.
Yeah. It was definitely. I mean, this has been a trying year. I mean, 2020 was a year that probably gonna go down in history for a long time and be talked about.
Yeah. I mean, I've said, like, if anyone who I've had beef with in 2020, if you want to just chalk it up to 2020, we could just squash it. Like, you can say, hey man, come on, it was 2020. Come on. And I'm like, all right, that's a good excuse.
Yeah.
2020 is a good excuse. All encompassing to get you over it. You grew up in LA around Crips. Tukey was one of the guys you looked up to.
Yeah.
And actually, you wanted to be a Crip at one point.
I did.
And but you never actually became one. And recently there was this whole discussion. Faison Love was the one that kind of, I believe, set it off, where he started calling Dave East, this other rapper from New York, a fake Crip, because Dave became a Crip like in his 20s. And we've interviewed a few people like this. Sada Baby became a Blood, like I believe in his 20s. And there's this kind of discussion that's happening, like, how people are perceived when they do that and why they would do that in general. Growing up, did you see guys join the Crips or Bloods later on in life, or was it all like something
we was
you grew up
young?
into?
The Crips was young, the Bloods was young, so that was a different time. It wasn't old Crips and Bloods at that time. It took time for them to evolve. So no, you didn't see old 40, 50-year-old Crips nor Bloods. I mean, we were all like teenagers, maybe 25, 22, 18, 19.
When you look at that, based on what you know now, and based on what comes with associating yourself with the gang, because let's not forget the term gang enhancement. If you get locked up for something, it might be 5 years, but you throw a gang enhancement on it and it might turn into 10 or 20 years. When you see people joining gangs later on in life, what's your take on it?
Confused.
Explain.
Well, I mean, you're talking about guys that have built a career for themselves, that have something going on. And, gangbanging is like a one-way street. It's a dead end. You're going to wind up either in jail or dead. So why would you choose that over being able to do concerts anywhere you want to, not having any worry about somebody looking for you? I mean, it's like you bringing a whole nother can of problems to you that you really don't need, or you shouldn't want, or maybe you do need them, but you shouldn't, in my personal opinion. I'd rather be making money, having fun.
Well, but then you could point to someone like a Snoop, who proudly proclaims himself as a Crip and has gone on to making millions of dollars. Has gone mainstream, has a cooking show with Martha Stewart. you know, uh, was one of the announcers for the Tyson fight. Sold millions of records.
I mean, there's benefits that come with it, but it could still cost you too in the long run. Snoop has been lucky, when he caught that murder case that he got off, because that could have really hurt him back then. But you can do all that without the cripping, without the, just get your mind right. You know what I'm saying? You need all that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it comes from Crips and Bloods have been marketed so well.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Because I remember I interviewed Leon, the actor. He was in the movie Colors. And we talked about how Colors was the first time that Crips and Bloods were on the big screen. This was actually, I believe, the first film that actually put Bloods and Crips on the big screen.
Yeah, it was the definitive gang movie. And from the soundtrack to the extras that were really gang members.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when that movie came out?
Yeah.
What was the effect of that movie in LA?
I don't know.
Why is that?
I didn't pay attention. I was having too much money.
Too much money to pay
I don't even know if I
attention.
went and watched the movie.
Okay.
I'm kind of, I'm a different type of person, like, it's like, I don't let other people tell me what I should like or what I shouldn't like. I like what I like or what I think I like, and I try not to just go with because it's a fad. I think the first time I saw Colors, I was in prison. Because I couldn't see nobody want to go watch a movie about gangbangers. Like, you go watch motherfuckers shoot at each other and try to kill each other and all this money out here. Like, I'd go watch a movie about making some money. I went and watched Scarface like 5 times. Superfly, I bought the videotape. Those were the type of movies that excited me. When you're talking about guys just killing each other for no apparent reason, I can't comprehend that. I don't understand it, and I don't think I'll ever understand it.
Yeah, right. Because Colors didn't really have any winners in that movie. It was pretty much just, a bunch of guys shooting at each other and a cop that was sort of mixed up in a certain type of way. Sean Penn played the cop. I think Robert Duvall played like the other cop. Having that be on the big screen like that, and then in the years following it, because remember in the beginning of hip hop, no one was mentioning gang names. Eazy-E never mentioned he was a Kelly Park Crip. He just called himself a gangster and left it at that. But then I think DJ Quick started talking about his blood affiliation. And then, MC8. And then, you fast forward to 2021, and if a rapper is gang affiliated, they are proudly saying that in their music.
And wearing the colors.
They're wearing the colors. They're wearing the bandanas. They're talking about it. They got their gang affiliates in the music videos and everything else like that.
And Death Row helped that out a lot too. With Suge.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's why it's probably more Bloods rapping than there are Crips. It used to be Crips used to be the biggest, and then it flipped to where Bloods became the biggest. So I think that Death Row had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I think Big U, when I interviewed him, I think he said that had he been out when Death Row was forming, that the Bloods wouldn't have been running LA the way Suge had him do, but he was locked up during that time.
Corrupt, I was messing with in 1990.
Yeah, so that was the first artist?
First artist, Corrupt was the
Okay.
first artist.
Was he affiliated with Death Row yet or no?
No, it wasn't no Death Row.
Okay.
It probably would never even been a Death Row if I'd have been home.
Okay.
Fact.
Yeah, and these days, it's very well marketed by the rappers.
Yeah, well, the news did it too. They put them on TV, on the news. It like you said, it became fashionable. I mean, singers start having them in their videos. Female rappers and singers. So yeah, it was definitely marketed.
Oh yeah, people were crip walking in their videos. I think Beyonce was crip walking. It's one of her song videos or something. Like, yeah. And now you have Crips and Bloods all over the world. Vietnam, Europe, all over the US. Every
city you go to.
Every city you go to. Yeah, man, it's sad. I mean, personally, from my point of view, I think it's sad because you're signing up to something that ultimately will have a negative effect on your life.
More than likely.
More than likely. Not always, but more than likely it's going to create that a problem at some point.
Oh yeah, I agree. I totally agree. It's a dead end street. You know, you're going down this street where nothing good can happen.
Yeah. Well, there's been a couple of high profile arrests that have happened since our last interview. Casanova 2 times. Did you hear about his whole situation?
No.
He's a rapper from New York, from Brooklyn. I'd interviewed him some years back. And when he got arrested, my name started to trend on Twitter for like 2 days.
Yeah, you know, I heard people, they say, they leave your show, they get arrested.
Right.
I said, the police don't be lurking around this show.
As soon as, there was another great rumor that I secretly give all my raw footage to the police before putting it out. That's the rumor I heard as well. Which I'm not sure why I would do that because literally every second of the footage comes out publicly. So I'm not quite sure what the advantage is for doing this, but you know, I get blamed for anything. So Casanova gets locked up and they're like, oh, it's because of the Vlad interview, you know, and I start to trend for like 2 days and so
that was good for you.
No, not really.
You don't like trending?
Not really.
Not that way.
Not that way. let me trend for something good. Let me trend for something cool, like winning some award or putting out a great interview. Not over some fake rumors, like, you know what I mean?
Well, it trended the same way when it came out that it was not you.
No.
It didn't trend the same way?
When it's not me, it gets buried under the rug. Yeah, it gets swept under the rug. Oh, okay. No one pays attention to this. In fact, I remember like there was a fake story. I remember it was like this meme that was just going around everywhere. Because this one rapper I'd interviewed a bunch of times, Arab, got found guilty. And there was a meme that the judge in Arab's case personally thanks DJ Vlad for helping to convict him. And they had this picture of a white judge in Arab. I don't even think it's the judge for the case. There's literally no truth in this. Like, I mean, literally the judge did not say anything. I actually went through the transcripts just to make sure. And then Arab did an interview recently from jail that said Vlad has nothing to do, like literally nothing to do with my case. My Vlad interviews have nothing to do with it, but no one really covers that part, you know? But we actually looked into the Casanova case. So the feds actually alleged that he was a leader of the untouchable guerrilla Stone Nation. He was among 18 members who were charged with racketeering, murder, narcotics, firearms, and fraud, COVID fraud. Essentially. He's facing a maximum of life in prison if convicted with a mandatory minimum of 10 years. And we actually looked through the case. You know, I actually looked through the paperwork because, you know, my name got dragged into it. So
find out where was you at?
Right. Number one, VladTV is not anywhere in the paperwork, first and foremost. There was one statement in the paperwork that said that in interviews, he had talked about stabbing inmates, which he did talk about in our interview, but he also talked about in a bunch of other interviews as well. But what was in the paperwork was his Instagram posts. He had posted pictures of guns and weed. His iCloud photos from his phone and text messages to other alleged gang members. There was also 6 wiretaps that were used. Ultimately, the judge denied a $2.5 million bail that he had basically, him and a bunch of people he knew put together $2.5 million between money and property and whatever else. The judge ended up denying that. So now he's going to have to
Fight his case from prison.
Fight his case from prison. Yeah. When you look at cases like this and you look at now, there is so much data that the police could get, that the feds could get between your phones, your Instagram, everything else like that, you know, because there's a picture of him like holding these big bushels of weed, right? But he's in Cali. But then they have text messages saying that he was actually using that weed and distributing it to other gang members. You see what I'm saying? Like, and then there is, you know, pictures of guns that he had posted on his Instagram story, but also there was stuff like that in his personal phone and so forth. When you look at these types of situations, is there really any chance of people getting away in this day and age?
Well, you have to be way smarter than I was, way smarter than Harrio was.
You guys are pretty smart.
Well, we didn't get away. So when you look at it, you know, you gotta be disciplined, smart, know when to quit, you know, and know what you're looking at. You know, I can remember when we were at Lompoc, a couple guys that was going out and to commit crime, they studied the law. They knew exactly how much. No, I ain't going this much. I'm gonna stay right under that number right there because this is the amount of time I can do. And a lot of these kids, they don't really analyze what they're doing. You know, they just go out and start doing stuff. And, you know, you wind up with situations like this right here.
Is there a real statute of limitations for this type of thing, for drug dealing?
For drug dealing, yeah, 7 years.
7 years, right.
It's really 5, but they can get a waiver from the judge to get him 2 more years.
Yeah, because, you know, people have this great conspiracy that, like, because, you know, I've talked about my botched, you know, cocaine kilo deal from the late 90s that I did. And people are like, oh, Vlad must be working for the feds still over that case. But that's way past the statute of limitations. But can't they do something like if it's an open case, they could still...
If you indict it. If you indict it and you run...
Oh.
If you don't come and face it,
aha,
then the indictment can stay open forever.
Aha, okay. So if you were indicted 20 years ago, and
yeah,
they
it's
haven't,
still open.
Aha. But if you were never indicted, you could talk about all the dirt that you did.
Yeah, 5 years. 5 years is really, but they can also go extra to it. It's hard to judge. Most judges won't let them do it, but if it's the right case, they will, because the way it works is that you have a right to defend yourself in a reasonable amount of time. And if they let 5 years go by, you know, witnesses forgot, evidence has been moved around, and a lot of stuff come up. So they really like you to do it fast. This is why they say a fast and speedy trial. But if it's the right person, you know, they can say, okay, give us an extra 2 years on this guy right here because of this.
Okay. So you could say, I moved $1 billion worth of cocaine 10 years ago, and there's nothing they could do about it.
No.
Really?
Nope.
Wow.
Especially if it's just cocaine. Now, if you put a murder in there.
No statute.
No statute of limitation on murder.
Right. Well, there was another case, and I got blamed for this one as well, because I did an interview with him at one point. A guy named Rollo from Atlanta. So he has a pretty interesting case.
I heard of Rollo.
In 2018, he was caught with almost 1,000 pounds of marijuana, worth around $2 million.
Yeah, I think I was in Atlanta when he got out on bail.
Right. Well, this is how it happened, because I actually looked into the whole case today. I want to get your take on it. So Rollo and 10 people boarded a private plane from Atlanta to Sacramento. 4 days later, they came back where federal and local surveillance saw him and other passengers transfer 37 packages wrapped in holiday paper from a jet to a van, and that van was registered to Rollo's home address. Shortly after the van was loaded, Georgia State Patrol arrested 3 men wearing Rollo Fam Goon attire inside the vehicle because it was driving without the lights on.
Wow.
Authorities found 520 pounds of marijuana worth of roughly $1 million in the van. Here's what makes this part kind of interesting. A day after those arrests, Rollo posted a picture of himself in a swimming pool with the caption, "I've lost more than a man have gained in a lifetime. Have you ever lost $1 million at one time?" A week after this Instagram post, authorities received a passenger list from the flight and connected Rollo to those men. 4 months later, they were notified that Rollo and 8 others traveled to Northern California again. This time, they allegedly transported 17 packages containing marijuana weighing 444 pounds back to Atlanta. The packages worth $880,000 were loaded into a Chrysler 300. Not long after the car left the airport, authorities stopped and took 8 people into custody. Rollo, who remained on the plane, initially refused to comply with authorities' commands. He later exited the aircraft, which smelled of marijuana, when police dogs were brought in to assist. So there you go. You got $2 million that he's connected to from private flights going from the Bay Area, where marijuana is legal, back to Atlanta, where marijuana is not legal. He was supposed to get bond, but his bond was recently revoked when the police found that he had a Apple Watch that they claim he was still doing drug deals on with the watch.
That's since he's been out of prison?
No, he's been in prison the whole time.
Now he was out on bail. I think I saw he got out on bail a couple.
He may have gotten out briefly, but he's been in prison for quite a while now. For a couple of years.
When I was in Atlanta, it was in the newspaper that they had a big picture of him in the paper. I don't know, it might have been 2 or 3 years ago.
When you look at this situation, as someone who was involved in transporting large quantities of drugs, where were the mistakes that were made along the way in this particular situation?
Well, I wouldn't have but one person in the van. I would have had a car following the van and a car in front of the van. So we'd have recognized that the lights wasn't on. Somebody would have recognized that the lights wasn't on immediately.
Yeah, when I mentioned the part about the lights, that's when you kind of groaned and was like, oh. You're like, no, not the lights.
Yeah, how you forget the lights on, especially in Georgia, dark as it is. Those are some of the mistakes that they made, and we never flew drugs on airplanes. We just felt uncomfortable with going in, charting a plane. $30,000, $40,000. It seemed like they're gonna ask questions. Like, who is this kid? What does he do? Why does he need a plane chartered back and forth? And then the pilot should have smelled the marijuana as well, and they could have turned him in.
Okay. So you've never chartered a private flight during that time?
No, never.
It was just too much of a red flag.
For me, I mean, I'm a low key dude. We throw that shit in the trunk of a car, put 3 or 4 cars on the highway, and get it there.
Okay, but you guys were also getting stuff from overseas.
I didn't. They brought it in to me. I didn't go outside the country to get it.
You were involved in it. Once it hit the U.S., that's when you took over.
Right.
Okay, but moving it across the country was always done in cars.
For us, yeah, that's what we did.
Okay.
It was before that, before they were stopping cars on the highway too. They wasn't profiling. It wasn't racial profiling back then. That started kind of later on down the road when all the cops found out, that blacks were controlling the cocaine business.
I've always thought that it was just odd to me that you have artists who are successful at being artists. Like Rollo has a real fan base. Casanova has a real fan base. Now, granted, these guys are innocent before being proven guilty. Maybe they had nothing to do with this, and this whole thing is they're being dragged into something that maybe people are just telling on them because they're the high profile guy and they know them. So personally, I hope, since I know both of them, I hope they both get freed and can walk away from this. But if they do get convicted of it, I guess it just doesn't make sense to me why someone who actually has a career and is making legitimate money to still have one foot in an illegal business and are risking it all when they honestly don't have to.
Yeah, I don't know. I question the money that entertainers make right now.
There's
You
that
know,
too.
I don't see it the way a lot of people see it. You would think that I don't know. I just don't see them having the kind of money that is betrayed. And a lot of it, the record labels want you to believe that these guys are rich. I used to tell when I was working with a few rappers, I would tell them, why would somebody go and pay $700 to see Jay-Z perform, and they won't pay $10 to come and see you perform? And some of those guys were great artists. And my philosophy is that Jay-Z, everybody believes Jay-Z's rich. And so if you believe that they're rich, you want to be around the rich and famous. So you will pay to be around the rich and famous.
Mm.
And somebody that's poor, you're not going to pay to be around them. You don't want to be around them. You don't want to associate yourself with being poor.
Wow. I've never heard it broken down like that before. The image of success. Yeah. I mean, because, I remember I just interviewed Lil Bibby, who has real money. And he was talking about how he was spending $7,000 a month on designer clothes that he could only wear once on Instagram. And his friend Kevin Gates was like, I spend $300 a month. I buy a new pair of Air Force Ones, a new Nike sweatsuit, a couple of shirts and underwear, and I'm done. And if anyone questions me, I'll pull out $50,000 out of my pocket and call it a day.
It's a couple $1,000s on sweaters, a couple $1,000 on outfit. I look up, I look in my closet, and then I look at my bank account. I'm like, man, this shit ain't right, And like me and Kevin Gates, I fuck with Gates. Like I used to talk to Gates a lot. He like, man, baby, man, like fuck all that shit, man. Like you can only wear that shit one time, man. And you know what I'm saying, like. And he like, bro, he said, baby, I spend $300 a month. And he like, I buy a Nike jogging suit, some polo shirts, socks, and one pair of Air Force Ones. He said, I wear that shit. He said, I wear that shit all month. He like, what somebody gonna say to me, baby? If somebody wanna talk about me, call me dirty, I'm gonna put out 50,000 in their face. And I'm like, he said he spent $300. And he got way more money than me at that time, And I'm like, man, I'm spending about $6-7 grand at least.
There it is, right there.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I mean, he's right. Instagram really is, it's a very weird place because I get caught in it myself. Like if I take a picture with someone and I'm wearing something designer, I feel I can't wear it again in another picture or an interview because they're going to say, oh, this guy just has that.
Oh, people tell me that too. Say you wear the same thing all the time.
But that's the whole point. But it's okay.
For me, it is. It's okay for me because I don't care.
Well, it's okay for everybody.
Yeah.
People just want to think otherwise.
Well, I don't really, like I said before, I don't really do what I do for other people. I do what I do for my family, myself, and my friends. So that we can be in a certain position.
Yeah.
In life. And that's what's important to me. How somebody think, I'm doing, you think I'm doing bad and you think I'm doing good. That's your perception. You can do that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what I feel that I need to do to put myself in a position that I want to be in.
All right. Well, and I also don't understand that why you would be a criminal and do songs about criminal activities and then do interviews about criminal activities.
Well, the cops been letting these other guys get away with it who never done crime. So the cops have to investigate to see who's lying and who's telling the truth. Many of them is so dope and and kill people, and so the cops. I don't think the cops just go by their records. If they would, they'd be lining the jails with rappers. So they don't just get a tape and listen to the tape.
Yeah, a lot of rappers have gotten locked up though.
But not from just their tape.
No, not at all. But
they're gonna do some evidence. They're gonna have some evidence.
Right. And that's the thing. People are like, you do an interview with Vlad, you get locked up. No, you do an interview with Vlad, and then you do a major crime.
Right.
And there's a chance.
And then you get locked up.
But you would have got locked up with or without that interview. The interview really doesn't matter at that point, because let me tell you, Boosie, who was on death row and facing multiple murders, said that in court for a day and a half, they sat there and listened to his music being played to the jury.
They do that. They play the whole day of my music.
Okay, so they did this to you too. They were playing Boosie songs.
They played the whole day, 8 hours of Boosie music, the whole day.
Really?
Explaining lyrics a whole day. It was a whole day, a whole Tuesday. They played a whole day of my music.
They were pinpointing all the times he was talking about murder, death, gangbanging, violence.
Yeah, but that's just for character, though.
Still.
Yeah, but it's different. It's different. It's different in character, and them showing your character, and them showing it as evidence. I can almost guarantee you that they told the jury that this tape has no bearing on his innocence or guilt, just the lifestyle that he believes in and that he lives, because they couldn't. You can't. That would be like if an actor was going to court, he played a serial killer, and he was going to court for killing his wife, that they would say, well, look at this movie he played in, he was a serial killer. So,
yeah, but they still do. Well, that's never been done for an actor, but it is being done for rappers all the time.
But only the ones that they have evidence on.
Yeah.
See, if the FBI arrests you, 98% of the time, you're going to be found guilty.
Yeah.
So if they arrested you, if they took the time out to arrest you,
yeah, the feds are no joke.
You automatically 98% chance that you are going to prison.
I know one person. Well, I know two people part of the same case. Three people in a federal case that got away with it. That's Irv Gotti, Ja Rule, and Chris Gotti.
Yeah, they didn't do nothing.
Murder Inc.
They didn't do nothing.
Murder Inc. beat a Fed case.
No, they didn't beat a Fed case. They got dragged in a federal case. They got dragged in the Supreme's case.
Yeah.
And they had no evidence that Irv Gotti had did nothing.
But they were still being charged.
What they do? Yeah, the feds do that. They'll throw you in.
Right. You know about this case, obviously.
Yeah, I read about it. I read all the articles and everything. They had no evidence that
they did it.
That Irv had took any money. You know, Irv got money from Def Jam, to start the label. So
yeah,
they had no evidence in that case. So they didn't really beat the case. There shouldn't have never been a case. Irv never should have been indicted.
But he did.
Yeah, so, you get overzealous cops.
Right.
They'll be like, fuck this guy Irv. He got to be doing something. He likes Supreme.
Mm-hmm.
And throw him in there. So
do you know Supreme?
No, I don't know Supreme.
Gotcha. Bill Cosby's still locked up. He recently posted a VladTV interview with Sinbad on his Instagram.
Oh yeah? Yeah,
that was actually kind of flattering. Lunel actually did the interview, but she did it for VladTV, so there was a VladTV logo on there.
Okay.
As someone that grew up watching the Cosby Show, where like at a certain point in my life, like Bill Cosby was one of the biggest celebrities on earth. The fact that he's posting Vlad TV content. He also shouted out Boosie, which I think was because of our interview as well. Because Boosie talks, about Cosby.
You big, man. You big, Black.
Hey, not big enough. I would have liked for him to have done that if he was out of prison, but I guess I'll take it what I can get. Do you think that Bill Cosby will get out?
I don't know. How much more time he has?
Let's take a look.
I think he only got 7 years. He should be close. He should be close to paroling now.
He was sentenced in September 25th, 2018 for 3 to 10 years in state prison.
You say 2018, so he's been in.
So 3 years would be, well, but then doesn't the state, you could do 50%?
Yeah, they say
85%?
He probably could be eligible in 3 years. So he probably has another year and he'll be eligible for
Okay,
parole.
well, 3 to 10 years, wouldn't he be eligible for a year and a half?
Maybe. Sometimes those laws will be like, you got to do the 3.
Oh, you got to do the 3. But then after that.
Then you become eligible any day.
Aha. Okay, so later this year he might get out.
Right.
Very old man. He's like, what, in his 80s, I think, at this point? 90s?
I don't know. I never really, I mean, you know, I wasn't a Cosby's guy.
No?
I was trapping, man.
He's 83 years old.
Yeah, I was trapping, man. I wasn't
You weren't watching the Cosby Show.
No.
That did not relate to you at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
Well, I mean, speaking of prison, Biden announced that they're no longer going to be doing business with private prisons. You heard about this?
I think I did hear a little bit about it.
Biden ordered the Justice Department not to renew contracts with private prisons. Have you ever been in a private prison?
Have I been in a private prison? I'm sure I have. Which one? I can't think of it right now. I'm sure I have. I know I've been in private county jails. I don't know. I don't know if I've been in a private prison or not.
Well, what is the difference between a private prison and a government prison?
Well, the private prisons, they wear white shirts and they don't say BOP, Department of Federal Bureau. In federal prisons, that's what they say on their jackets. They are employees of the government. They get less money at private prisons than federal guards. They can get minimum wage as a private guard. Biden trying to shake up things, man. I'm glad he won. I think he's gonna help us get this country back on the right track. Make marijuana legal too.
Well, I mean, personally, I think it's a good thing. I'm glad that he's not renewing private prisons, contracts with private prisons. I think that there shouldn't be for-profit prisons. I think that that's just a type of business that should not happen.
Yeah, and a lot of it, when the people who are putting you in prison invest in those prisons, so it definitely makes it worse, when the cops have incentive to give out more time. And, I remember one time reading an article where the private prison was suing the city because they wasn't sending enough people to prison. So, you open up a lot of doors when you start letting people own prisons.
Yeah. You're still in the marijuana business?
Heavy.
After our last interview, I had mentioned that I know about this this marijuana business that's close to our studio.
Yep.
I made some phone calls. You said you were interested in potentially doing some work with them.
Absolutely.
So I made some phone calls. I set up a meeting. All of us went over there. You ended up meeting with the owner of the business, and I'm in the room this whole time.
Yes.
And I got to see a legal drug deal unfold in front of my eyes. Like I almost felt like I got to sit in and saw Freeway Ricky Ross in action do his thing. I will say this: the speed that this deal came together was like nothing I'd ever experienced myself.
Well, I don't take a lot of time. I like to do my stuff quick, get it over with. Either we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. Talking and I like to just go, let's do it.
I saw it. It was like, all right, what do you want? Okay, cool. We got this. All right, the graphics, we'll do that. All right, how much you need? And it was so fast and quick. And I'm not going to say who you're doing it with or anything else like that. That's your own business. But like I said, watching it unfold just from a business perspective was very cool.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing pretty good. Right now, I'm working on getting my own grow right now. Working on a 20,000 square foot building.
I saw there's a video on your Instagram that has this huge, like a warehouse space, and it said first of many. I'm not putting you on blast because you put this up yourself.
Oh no, I want everybody to know. I just come from Oklahoma looking at 2 more.
Okay.
I tell you, I want to be the biggest.
So these are grow houses?
Grow houses, yeah. I'm gonna start growing my own weed now.
Aha.
I've been buying it from everybody else, and now I want to grow my own.
Why grow your own indoor as opposed to just buying a plot of land somewhere and just having some big outdoor grow?
Well, indoor is more upper level weed,
Really?
Yeah. They like indoor better than they like outdoor. But I'm gonna do some outdoor too. You know, I'm gonna go up to Santa Barbara and buy me a great big chunk of land up in Santa Barbara and start growing up there. I'm still new in this business. But you know, I found out that the skills that I used in the cocaine business was well suited for this. You know, my fighter now. You remember my fighter? He's finna fight for a title.
Really?
Remember the one that I brought here last time?
I do.
Yeah, Nafir Charles. He's getting ready to fight for his first title. And I got another kid that we got coming in this week. Is they saying that he may be the best fighter ever.
Ever?
Ever.
Better than Floyd Mayweather.
His name is Floyd too.
Ah.
His dad named him Floyd. Coincidence, huh?
Did you watch the Tyson fight?
I watched it.
What'd you think?
You know, they got paid.
They got paid.
Hopefully.
Did you watch the pre-fight? Jake Paul and Nate Robinson?
I watched that one too. I watched the whole event.
Yeah.
I thought it was well, you know, the weed business put it on.
Weed Maps was the biggest sponsor of that whole event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember John Sally pointed that out. And he was saying how he thinks that Weed Maps may have scared off some of the other advertisers.
I'm looking at that black felt and I said, how is that not being advertised? And I kept thinking, why is it no sponsorship? All this, and then when his fight came on, it started lighting up over the stage.
Everywhere. Yeah.
But the reason there was no sponsors is because a major sponsor was Weed Maps.
I don't know why.
Who knows?
I don't know why. They probably need the seed money anyway. Weed Maps probably gave them the seed money to kick it in. You know, the weed business got that money. So I'm trying to tap into it, man.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Tyson's heavy into it. In fact, I think in our interview, because I interviewed Mike Tyson since last time.
Oh, did you?
I did. Well, let me just preface this a little bit. It was a VladTV interview primarily done by Zab Judah. Zab Judah interviewed Tyson. I hopped in at the end and asked a few questions.
Okay.
But it was really a Zab Judah interview. I need to give him his proper.
Yeah.
His proper.
Mike is cool though. You know, I interviewed on Mike's channel.
I remember that.
And
I
like Mike. I was a little disappointed that they didn't invite me, you know, having to fight inside of LA, knowing that I'm into boxing, that they didn't call me and say, hey man, you want to be a part of this?
He had a lot going on.
This event.
It was his promotion.
Yeah.
So they had a lot to deal with. But what Mike said, Mike is actually heavy in the marijuana business. And in fact, I think he said he has like 2 banks where you could basically deposit your money because you can't put your money in a regular bank.
We got into the marijuana business. I believe we have some marijuana banks now, weed banks.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you should look into that. Because you can't put your money in a bank, right? You can't open up a bank.
They taking it now.
They're taking it now.
Yes, bank's taking money now.
Okay. Aha. Okay, because I thought for a long time you couldn't do it at all. That's why.
Well, you can't put Bank America, Chase, U.S. Bank, you know, those guys in. They all shut my accounts down.
Did you get your money back?
Yeah, they give you money back. They tell you, hey, that money, come get it.
So you've had accounts at these banks. They've shut it down and said,
absolutely, cut off my credit cards.
Everything.
All of it.
So where can you bank right now in the marijuana business? I mean, can you say, or would you rather keep that to
credit
yourself?
unions.
Credit unions.
They don't care.
They don't care. Gotcha. Well, before I let you go, we've had some deaths in the world. Debo, a.k.a. Tommy Lister. Did you know him?
Yeah, I knew Debo well.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that character was actually based on Big U.
Oh, is that right?
We had an interview. Jack Thriller actually did the interview with Tommy, and he said he based the Debo character on Big U.
I told you, I pulled that from Big U. I used him as my background of how I wanted this character to be perceived. Because the whole thing about how bad this guy was is when Ice Cube pulled the gun on him. He said, what you gonna do with that? Besides make me mad.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, small world. How'd you feel when he died?
I don't know. I mean, to me, death is part of living. So I don't really, I don't really get emotional about somebody dying. I don't know. I'm a strange animal. You know, I just don't. You know, my mom. I didn't go to my mom's funeral.
Really?
When she passed, yeah, the day of her funeral, I took my kids and we went to the tennis courts and did what me and her and them would have been doing, played tennis. And that's what she liked, and that's what I did.
I mean, everyone deals with it differently, man. There's nothing wrong with however anyone handles it.
Yeah,
you know?
so I just look at it different than a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, they say in some places, you know, if you cry at a front when somebody died, the whole village will be mad at you.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, because they really believe that this person is going to see God and that you're jealous because you didn't get to go.
Larry King died. This is someone who I looked up to a lot. You know, when I got into, you know, doing interviews, I wasn't looking at the hip hop journalists who I always felt were just basically just fans and would do PR jobs and give a bunch of softball questions. You know, I looked at 60 Minutes of Larry King.
Larry King was good. Larry King was good.
He was good. He would ask questions unapologetically. And yeah, I actually had a picture with him.
Real journalism.
Real journalism. Ecstasy from Houdini passed away.
No, I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah. And Cicely Tyson, most recently.
Yeah, I saw her on the news the other day.
Yeah, great actress. Great actress. And you had a few people pass, some of your friends, actually, from COVID.
Mm-hmm. About 8, 7. Yeah. I know a lot of people, though, you know, not close friends. I've been fortunate that nobody that's, you know, in my immediate circle, somebody that I talk to every day or every other day, these were like people, they died before I even knew, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting a call, hey, you know, your boy just passed. Huh? What? So,
yeah,
you know, knowing what I know about it, I've been able to save all my friends.
Yeah. Well, we're still in the middle of the pandemic. So, you know, Tommy actually had COVID once already and was planning.
He had it twice.
Well, he died when he got it the second time.
Yeah,
Chico was actually looking forward to taking the vaccine. He was saying that there was a final.
Yeah, Chico was at his house today, right the day before he died. My co-defendant.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was doing a movie and he was over there talking to Debo about getting on the movie.
Yeah.
And he said Debo didn't even tell him he had COVID.
Well, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it was.
He could have caught it himself.
He could have. He you know, he had to quarantine and go do the swab and all the other stuff that they do.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, appreciate you coming back. You know, you and I, you actually had the first interview with us at the start of the pandemic. And I'm glad that we're both still here, healthy, doing our thing. Corona free.
Both of us been corona free so far.
So far, we've both been corona free. But you and I have also, I feel, are responsible adults.
Yeah.
We're not going to concerts.
No.
We're not packing ourselves in with large groups of people. You know, we're doing our interview in person, but we are socially distanced. We wear our masks as we're coming in. And honestly, like, even before COVID, I've been in a house, you know, in my house would there literally be 2 or 3 people sick with colds in my house. And I would wear a mask and wash my hands every time. And I would walk away. I'd be the only person in the house that would not get sick. So really wearing masks, washing your hands, socially distancing, it actually works. And as long as you really follow that, you have a much better chance to get through this.
I agree.
Hopefully during our next interview, COVID will be wiped out and we could have the new Roaring 20s.
I hope so. I'm ready to go back to work.
There we go. Till next time.
All right.
Peace.